Today's video is brought to you by The Cold Plunge. Use discount code DAVE150 at checkout at thecoldplunge.com. Immediately save $150 off your purchase. That's DAVE150 at thecoldplunge.com. There's also a link below this video. This one from Jeff. I'm currently a marathoner and want to give strict running a break. I need a bit more variety. I feel burnt out by just running and related training. So my goal is to do my first try in September. I want to do an Olympic distance, but feel extremely overwhelmed on where to start in regards to gear. I want to try to do this on a budget. Any input would be wonderful. You know, whenever I hear that, I want to do this on a budget. Well, what are your goals? You want to do it or you want to do it on a budget? I mean, your take on the sport, what does the sport require? Yes, you can do things on a budget, but don't skimp on quality equipment or quality training. I always hear that. I go, gosh, you always want to compromise. I want the best, but I don't want to pay a lot. You know what I mean? When you hear those things.
Yeah. It's a very subjective word. What a budget means to Jeff may be different than what it means to me or to you to do triathlon on a budget. Mm-hmm. You need the essentials. You need a, swim cap, swimsuit, goggles, a pool to train in. You may need to pay for a facility to train in a pool. It's important. You may want to invest in a swim analysis. If you're new to swimming, if you're a marathon runner going into the sport of swimming, I'm going to guess you're going to be a weaker swimmer and you might not understand the breathing component of swimming. And you may get in the water and be like, oh my gosh, I can run a marathon. I can't even swim 25 meters without being breathless. So you may have to invest in some swim lessons locally. And then, running's taken care of. A lot of athletes that I've coached with marathon running background tend to not want to give up their running miles, even though you said you wanted to cross train more and not just be a single sport athlete. It's important that you do give up some running miles and replace those with biking and swimming. And it may be a hard transition for you to do that because you're so used to running. But like I said, investing in spending some time, maybe investing more time than anything on the swim and the bike is going to be a time investment. It's not a financial investment.
Now, I gave you a little bit of a hard time here, Jeff. I understand coming from a runner's point of view on a budget because you're not used to spending more than what you have to on shoes and nutrition probably. So it can be overwhelming to go, oh no, I got to do all three now, and I've got to fuel for all three now, and that can be, as Wendy's outlining these things, like it's not just swim. You have to have access to a pool, which means a membership. And if you don't know how to swim, you should probably get someone to help you. That way, you're not just doing the wrong thing over and over again and not becoming efficient. And then you got to get a bike. I understand this can be overwhelming. It's kind of whenever I hear someone say, "Oh, I want to do this on a budget," you're entering the sport of triathlon. There's numerous articles every year on USA Triathlon magazine or Triathlete magazine, whatever it may be, triathlon on a budget. You need to have money to do this sport because there's nothing cheap about, and that's just the equipment. I'm not talking about travel, accommodations, entry fees, nutrition throughout the year, rehab, massage. Depends on what you want out of the sport. If you want to participate, you can really do it on a budget. Borrow someone's bike, go running with your shoes, and then don't worry about too much on the clothing. So I'm giving you a little hard time, Jeff, but I know coming from a marathoner to all three sports, yes, overwhelming, but budget is relative. Might want to just pay it. Just do what you got to do. It's a lot to take in. Find a coach, find a local group, and start asking questions from people in that category.
Yeah. So really quickly, another thing. So we covered, the swim necessities, the bike, I think investing and budgeting a proper bike fit and making sure you're riding something that was made for you and that fits you is something that you should budget. That's something that's worthwhile to spend money on. And then you already have the running stuff. So, Dave mentioned a club. You can join a local club, maybe for free, maybe for $25 or $50 a year. If you can attend the social gatherings and the group workouts, that might be a worthwhile investment as well. But again, sticking to the basics, you don't need a power meter. You don't need a lot of special clothing. You're going to need something to train in. You don't need a tri-suit. You don't need a wetsuit, But again, it just depends on the race that you're doing. Is it a pool swim? Is it open water swim? Coming from a marathon background, you're probably going to want to invest in a wetsuit just because you're an inexperienced swimmer. So there are the basic things you will need to invest in, but you don't need to get overwhelmed by someone who's been in the sport for multiple years, who has collected items over the course of, 5, 10, 15 years. You don't need all that.
If you have some sort of mentor or just a coach, once you start with the top of the pyramid with a coach, everything else will fall into place.
Right.
Because they'll put you in the right place to succeed. If you go out there, if you have the time to research it online, if you have the time to do the trial and error, great. But get someone who's been there, done that. That way you don't waste your valuable time on, sure, you're a runner, but does marathon running, is it the same as, a 10K after a 25-mile bike? It's not quite the same. There's going to be a difference. So you think you can run marathons, which you can, but there's a difference getting off the bike after, 2.5, 3 hours and thinking, oh, my legs, what happened? Oh, they're a little heavier than usual. Why is that? Well, I hope your coach told you what to expect. If you don't have a coach, then it's going to be a rude awakening.
Right. A 10K after riding a 40K is different than the last 10K of a marathon. It feels different.
Today's video is brought to you by The Cold Plunge. Use discount code DAVE150 at checkout at thecoldplunge.com. Immediately save $150 off your purchase. That's DAVE150 at thecoldplunge.com. There's also a link below this video.